Welcome to another episode of a Holy Rust Revival. I'm Rob Smith, your host. Oh, what do I get myself into? What you see sitting in front of me is the transmission out of this 1973 Jeep CJ5. That, by the way, has a V8 in it. It came from the factory with a 304 and a T15 standard 3-speed transmission and a Dana 20 transfer case. Pulled the old girl out of the bushes about 4 weeks ago. You may have seen my previous video where we got the engine running again. And by the way, it's running great. I had some concerns with compression on 2 cylinders in the engine, and that has cleared up. The more I've run her, the better that she has gotten. So strong engine in this thing. It's a beast. It really is. I've rebuilt the carburetor, 2 Ford Motorcraft 2-barrel 2100 carburetor. Wonderful carburetor, dirt simple, easy to rebuild. Plenty of videos out there on YouTube about that. I also put new points in the distributor. And you may say, why put points when you got electronic ignition today? Well, I'm trying to keep this old Jeep original, and I'm trying to do it on the cheap. And if I'd have bought a HEI distributor, it would have cost me a couple of $100, and points only cost me $12, I think it was. And plus, rebuilding the old carburetor, back 10 years ago, I would have ripped that intake off, and I would have put a 4-barrel Edelbrock on there with aluminum intake, and probably gained about 40 horsepower, no doubt. Good old 4-barrel opening up. But again, that rebuild kit for that carburetor cost me $25, $30, something of that nature, and it's very easy to rebuild. And now I can still walk into any parts store and say that I have a 1973 Jeep CJ5, and everything is bone stock original in this thing, and they can look it up for me. Well, I got to using her on the farm, worked her out good, put these nice tires on there, been pulling my sawmill with it. I've been running around with a chainsaw in the back of it, doing chores on the farm, and she's earned her keep. It's no doubt a very strong Jeep and a wonderful Jeep I'm going to look forward to using for many years. However, there's a problem. You may have seen on my last video also that I dumped about a gallon of water out of this transmission.
What's going to come out? Oh, look at there. I already see water. Excuse me, y'all. This cold weather's got my throat all messed up. Look how much water is in this thing. It might be all water. Oh my goodness. Look at that. Now, aren't you glad that I checked this before I got crazy cranking and running this thing? Excuse me. Man, look how much water's coming out. I'm surprised it hadn't frozen and cracked. Oh my goodness. I don't think there's any oil in it. Well, no oil, all water.
What has happened? What happened is that water stood in here, and the needle bearings have gone out, and the main shaft bearing has gone out in this transmission, and the throwout bearing is bad. I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer and show you all of that. But this video may take place over several days of time as I rebuild this T15 transmission, and hopefully I'm not going to have to do much to the transfer case other than maybe put new seals in the front and back and new seals where the shift rods come out. So what I have noticed about this Jeep and found out, which is absolutely amazing, is that this Jeep only has 50,000 original miles on it. The speedometer works perfectly, and I would have doubted that. But the speedometer works great, and as I'm pulling all of this stuff out of this Jeep, I can tell that no bolt has ever been turned on this thing before. You know how it is. You see it. You can see when stuff has been monkeyed with underneath, but the original bolts were in the cross member. All of the washers were still there. All of the nuts matched. Everything was perfect, just as if it came out of the factory. So I'm amazed at what good a shape this old Jeep is in. Some of you may look at it and go, Rob, you're a little bit crazy. But it's bone stock original, and that's what I love about it. And it's going to be a good Jeep for a long, long time. And I'm looking forward to putting all of this back together and having this for some beautiful spring runs in the spring to enjoy. Just to have the top off and just enjoy God's beautiful creation. So stay tuned as we tear apart this T15. So let me show you a few things right offhand here. First of all, this is the throwout bearing. This is what the clutch fork goes into, and when you push the clutch, this operates the pressure plate on the clutch. And listen to this. Do you hear that? Those bearings are completely fried in this thing. And as I was trying to push the clutch, it was working. It was working. The clutch was working fine, but she sure was screaming. I mean, she was screaming. She didn't want to work. And actually, it's almost frozen up. When I turn this, I'm actually turning the whole thing, and it shouldn't be that way. I just can't. See, I can't even with one hand make that thing turn. It's froze up. That's terrible. That's bad. It needs to go away. Hey y'all, it's been a few days, about a week or maybe even 2 weeks since I did that last video on the transmission coming out, and you might have noticed I was in a short sleeve shirt then, and I'm all bundled up now. It's cold in Mississippi. The thing about Mississippi is if you don't like the weather 1 week, just wait around a day or two, and it'll be just like you like it in another 2 or 3 days. It just fluctuates around here quite extremely in the springtime. I think it's about 28 degrees now. Okay, look, I wasn't going to do a video on this. I don't know how good this is going to be, but maybe you can learn something from this. I think in my last little segment, I talked about the throwout bearing that was bad. And by the way, let me grab it. I couldn't in that last segment show you very well, but do you see how frozen up that is? And it's just grabbing. So I thought that the throwout bearing was the problem with all the clunking that I was hearing in the transmission while the engine was just sitting there idling out of gear. I mean, literally it was just rattling. And so I thought that it was the throwout bearing, but I just had this feeling in my heart, in my mind, that I ought to just go ahead and tear into this transmission because it sat in water for so long. And boy, am I glad that I did. And I think the whole purpose of this video is not necessarily to show you the rebuild of a T15 transmission, but to show you what can happen to a transmission when water sits in it. I thought that I was going to get lucky and it was just going to be bearings that were bad. But no, I'm not so lucky on this one. But I'm still not upset because this Jeep is turning out to be a wonderful, just great Jeep. The more I turn nuts on it, the more I realize it's a cherry. It really is a nice, nice Jeep. Well, let me grab the camera and bring you in here and show you some of the issues that I have uncovered inside of this T15 transmission. Okay, this is basically the whole main gear assembly outside of the transmission. This is the input gear that goes to the clutch. This is the output shaft that goes to the transfer case. And these are all of your gears. Now, I want to bring you in very closely and show you. Do you see how rusty these gears are? And I'm very concerned about this one. This side is fine. Look at how nice that is. But when you get to this side, look how crusty and rusty it is because these gears actually sat in the water in the bottom of the transmission for an extended period of time. This one's bad. This
gear back here does not seem bad at all. I think that one's going to be fine. And this gear is okay. I think we can get by on this one. But here is our problem. That's not even the main problem right there. Remember, this is the input shaft. So basically, when you're sitting there idling, and this shaft is going to be turning when everything is in neutral. When your shift forks have everything in neutral, this will be turning. This is where I was hearing the clunking sound. Do you see the broken gear? Let me turn it a little bit. Okay, maybe you can see it better now. You see that one, and then you see the one right next to it. Do you see how it's chewed off? So I'm guessing what had happened was it sat in water, and maybe some chunks came off out here. I don't know, but got in these gear teeth, and maybe that rusted and fused to the other gear inside. Now, come in here. That gear actually runs on this intermediate shaft. So this is the input side, and that's where that gear mates up. Do you see how that one is chewed and broken off there as well? The rest of them are not in terrible shape, but there's only one tooth. One tooth right there, or two. That one and that one are both broken off. And I'm convinced now that that was the clunking sound that I was hearing. These back here, not in terrible shape. I think we can get by. The ones in the very back, they're, well, I don't know. That's in pretty bad shape right there. I think I'm going to have to replace this whole intermediate shaft too. Well, I know I am, because this is all molded one piece, and that tooth is broken, so I'm going to have to replace this whole shaft anyway. The gear that one spins on back here, this one, seems to be okay. So that's good. I don't have to replace that gear, but this one is going to get replaced. Look at that. So I'm thinking what happened in the front, it just rusted. The thing just rusted in two and finally just broke off. So that's what happens when water goes down the gear shift and then ends up inside the transmission and sits there for an extended period of time. All manner of things can go wrong. Now here's a little trick. When I take a transmission apart, I like to clamp a rod to the table and take each piece off and put it on the shaft as I take it off so that I can keep all my parts in order. So, yes, there we go. Look, I'm probably not going to do a complete overhaul, rebuild video on this transmission. I just wanted you to see that. But, and please pay no attention to how messy my workbench is. I've got 5 projects going on at one time. Look, if you ever want to rebuild a T15 transmission, here's your little word of advice. Buy a kit from Novak Adapters, and this whole page or this whole thing will come with your kit, and it'll tell you step by step. I mean, pictures, visualizations, step by step of what you need to do. Unfortunately, I let mine sit on the table, and it got gear oil on it. But look, everything, you should not be asking any questions whatsoever about what you need to do. And like I said, these instructions come with the transmission, and there's a complete breakdown of how it's supposed to look, part by part, piece by piece, so that you can be ensured that you have everything you need to rebuild this transmission efficiently. So look, I'm not going to steal their thunder. I just want you to see what was going on, and we're probably going to park this video because, y'all, I'm building a barn. I'm sawing wood. I've got a sawmill out there that I'm just cutting away, so my shop time is getting very limited. Oh, look at that. So I decided to go ahead and pull the engine as well. Why, you say? Well, the rear main seal is leaking. You probably can't see it from here, but the rear main seal is leaking. Had to do some work on the exhaust manifolds. The oil pan gasket was leaking, and the front crankshaft seal is leaking as well. So while I've got that transmission out, I'm going to go ahead and get this baby in good shape again. Speaking of transmission, the transfer case is done. I pulled all of the yokes, or the 2 yokes off, and put new seals behind them. And then I put new seals on the shift shafts right up in there. So the transfer case is in perfect condition. I'm talking perfect. So I'm excited about that. It's not going to leak anymore, hopefully, cross fingers. And this is going to be in good shape in a week or so. And engine's going to be good. Look, this is going to be a good Jeep for many, many years. And I'm excited about it. So anyway, y'all, let's finish this video. And just know, keep an eye on your transmissions, especially if you're parking your Jeeps outside without the top on. Make sure that water is not going down that shaft into the transmission and sitting there and causing all kind of chaos. But nothing that can't be recovered for a feller that, is a little bit handy.
Well, thank you for watching another episode of a Holy Rust Revival. I don't feel like the content was that great in this video, but I hope you got a little something out of it, or maybe you were able to see inside of a transmission that you needed to. But look, y'all pray for me. My oldest son is getting married May the 18th. It is now, what is it? It's about second or third week into February, so 3 months away. I've got to build a barn. They're going to get married here on the farm in a barn. And I don't have that barn yet. But I am cutting some wood. I'm getting materials lined up so that first and second week of March, we're going to have a barn raising around here. So you may see some videos on that. So if my content seems a little lacking lately, it's just because the old guy is just busy. And he is swamped under, and it's about all that he can do to keep his head sane right now at the moment between farm work and day job and wedding fixing and cutting wood and sawing lumber and making plans for a barn. It's a bit overwhelming, but he's going to make it. This too shall pass. Look, y'all make sure that you, in the tough situations in your life, you remember, don't forget always to give God the glory for it all, okay? He brings you through seasons, takes you through seasons, helps you complete seasons together. He is not going to guide where he does not provide. Okay? My pastor at my church says that a lot. I wish I could take credit for that, but the pastor at my church says that frequently. And it's just a great statement to remember. Where God guides, he provides. No matter what season of life you're in right now, just remember that when God is in control and you're letting him and giving him the glory, he's going to provide for you each step of the way. All right, y'all. God bless. Have a great week. I hope the next time you see me, I'm tearing up something. Well, tearing up something in a good way in my old Jeep CJ5. I'm ready to sling some dirt in that thing or climb a hill. And we're going to do that this spring. So may take you along on some trip that we go on. All right, again. God bless. Y'all take care.